Hi there, thanks for joining us on Let's Talk Taste with Sherry, where we're saving the earth one flavor at a time by gathering community to share wisdom around the natural connections between our innate sense of taste and flavors that are grown in healthy regenerative soils. Welcome. Hi there, Sherry Hess with the Flavor Remedy. Welcome to the very first episode of Let's Talk Taste with Sherry, where we are saving the earth one flavor at a time. So you might be like, what does that mean? I don't understand. So let me talk to you a little bit about who can benefit from this. Who can be like, I never thought about that. Why? What draws you in? Like, why is this important? So first of all, I'm talking to you, the individual listener, the person out there who chose to listen to me because I'm talking about taste or flavor or anything that is appealing, right? There's this pleasure in experiencing flavor. And yet at the same time, when we're trying to eat healthy, there seems to be this angst, right? There's this message in the wisdom of the world of eating healthy that we're supposed to be avoiding certain flavors, right? We're supposed to be avoiding sweet. We're supposed to be avoiding salty. And it feels like confusing because cravings are teaching us that that's what we want, right? So there's this struggle in the world of dieting around flavor. There's this assumption that you have to give up things that you love. And ultimately the choice in flavor can be your demise of finding a healthy way to eat, right? So if it's not making me healthy, how can it possibly be making the earth healthy? There's a connection here. There's a bigger picture here that we're missing out on, right? We're missing out on the actual physical responses that our bodies have around these cravings. And what I'm proposing here is that if we start to recognize the differences in flavor, the flavor experience beyond just our taste buds and into our body, so that we can trust that this sense of taste that we're born with, this innate tool, is literally what we're supposed to be using to detect nutrition, right? So I'm talking to you, the person who thinks they need to be a dieter their whole life, the person that seems to fail every single time you go to change your diet because you can't eat foods that you love. Now there's shifts happening on that front, so I get that, but it's bigger than that. So what I'm talking about here is the simplest way to look at this is you look at two different tomatoes, right? By definition, they're both a tomato. One tomato has been trucked across the country or from out of the country to your grocery store on a shelf. It's bright red, it's waxy, it's shiny, and it tastes like garbage. And then your neighbor brings you this beautiful tomato that they grew in their backyard that's plump and juicy and red and fragile and soft and delicious. And you're trying to teach your kids to eat vegetables because everyone tells you you're supposed to eat vegetables, but they taste like crap, and you're buying this tomato that comes from the grocery store and you're pouring ranch dressing on it just to get your kid to eat a vegetable. Whereas if you could take that big, delicious, juicy, sweet and sour and bitter tomato that's complex in flavor and complex in nutrients, it would be a whole lot easier to lean into the flavors of that tomato, right? So you as the individual who wants to eat healthier, I'm talking to you. Now let's talk about who grew that tomato, right? So what has happened in the world of growing tomatoes is that our farmers have been convinced that there's better reasons to grow a tomato than flavor and nutrition. You know, in order to be successful, and this is a real thing, you know, there's part of a convincing level, but there's reality to this, that in order for their tomato to sell, they need to be able to truck it across the country. So they're going to focus more on the stability of the tomato, the yield of the tomato, than they are the nutrient values of the tomato. So along comes food science, along comes agricultural chemical business that has these brilliant ways of increasing yield and increasing shelf stability, and what's getting lost is the flavor. And in conjunction with that flavor is the nutrients. And those nutrients are not in the tomato because they're no longer in the soils. Are you starting to see the connection here? Are you starting to see that the actual flavor is coming from growing and raising food the way it's meant to be grown and raised with the biodiversity? Diversity is a huge part of what we're going to talk about here in lots of different aspects, but let's just even start coining the term flavor diversity, because flavor diversity equals nutrient diversity. So I'm painting the picture here, right? Flavor has so much more power than we're giving it reverence to. Our sense of taste has so much more importance than we're giving, than we're recognizing in it, right? So I'm talking to the farmers too, like farmers that are trying to do the right thing, that are trying to fix the soils and grow delicious food that's more nutrient dense, right? I want to honor the work that you're doing. I want you to come onto the show. I want you to talk about what you see and what's being demanded of you, right? Because there's a demand for that shelf-stable tomato. And your beautiful, soft, delicious tomato is not getting the reverence it deserves, right? And then there's a whole new category here for chefs. So a chef that understands flavor. So my culinary background, I always knew that flavor was the part that was easy for me. Flavor, creating flavor, putting ingredients on a plate and making it taste good. It's just like my easy thing, my go-to. People look at me like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. It's just born in me. And that's not a brag. That's just, everybody has a gift, right? So for me, I understand how to balance flavors. Chefs that care about their ingredients, that have like a bigger stance on health or, even these same alignments of fixing the soils or supporting local gardeners or supporting local farms, right? They might have a little bit of an element of wanting to save the earth, but they have to make their guests happy with flavor, right? And they see the difference in buying food from a farmer's market, from a local farmer's market that shows up fresh on their plate, that they can just simplify their ingredients because the flavor is coming from the food. And everyone looks at the chef like they're brilliant, and they are, believe me, chefs, I have so much respect for chefs. But in reality, part of it is just the fact that these ingredients are grown with more flavor and more nutrients. And what message is missing for chefs is that chefs are actually giving you more nutrition. You think you're going out to eat because it tastes delicious and it's this indulgence. But the reality is, if you're going to a restaurant where they're making everything fresh, you're getting a healthier meal than most of the stuff you're probably eating at home from a package, right? So flavor is this power. Flavor is what we lean into all the time. It is what drives our choices. It is what makes us feel empowered. It's what our bodies crave. And yet we're letting it be manipulated. We're not giving it reverence. We're not letting it be the powerful draw that it is. And by seeing this connection between nutrients and flavor, and you as an individual choosing flavor, there's a magic here. There's a missing arc. I see it clear as day. But I'm not the expert here, right? Like this podcast, this vision, this channel, whatever it is me wanting to create community, me wanting to gather experts, me wanting to bring in the chefs, the gardeners, the nutritionists that want people to eat healthier, the individual that's like, well, oh my God, I can give myself grace for wanting something sweet. Like, it's all of these things. It is all of these things. And it is an invitation, for listeners to lean into this conversation, for people that want to grow food differently with flavor and nutrients to come in and talk about how you're doing that. And even for the food scientist to come in and educate us on what happens when we experience flavor on our mouth and our brains and our connections, and the fact that we have to make a choice to put food in. Like, there's a lot of wisdom out there that can take us down a path that is very different from the path that we're on right now. And I see flavor as a remedy. I see this connection to our bodies. And, you know, one of my favorite phrases is, we are not apart from nature, but rather a part of nature. If you can look at your body as a little microcosm of the earth and see how your body wants flavor, and the flavor comes from the earth, there's an easy correlation here in my mind, right? But we need more support. We need to bring this to light. We need to bring in the experts. And that's what I want to do with this podcast. I want this to be community. I want this to be awareness. And I want flavor to save the earth. Pretty simple in my mind. Thanks for joining me. I hope you'll stick with me and continue this conversation.